It was 3:17 in the morning when the ocean floor moved. Deep beneath the Pacific, at the convergence of two tectonic plates, pressure that had built for decades was suddenly released. The rupture lasted less than a minute, but it sent ripples outward through the water, through the earth, and into the heart of a sleeping nation. At the Pacific Seismic Monitoring Center, located on the coastal cliffs of the small island nation of Vasuna, alarms began to scream. Red lights blinked. Monitors showed a magnitude 8.9 earthquake centered 210 kilometers offshore. The shaking didn't reach the capital directly, but the ocean felt it. Dr. Lynn Avers, lead seismologist on the night shift, stared at the data in stunned silence. Her hands moved automatically. She initiated Protocol 9. Major quake detected. The system ran its simulations. She didn't need to wait for the results. The quake was shallow, the rupture long, the angle perfect. It wasn't just an earthquake, it was a tsunami event. The model loaded. Wave height, up to 21 meters. Time until coastal impact, 92 minutes. She immediately sent the emergency alert package to the Vasunan Ministry of Internal Safety. According to standard emergency procedure, they had to approve a public broadcast before the national warning system could trigger sirens, mobile phone alerts, and radio cut-ins. The package was marked urgent. Lynn watched it go through. It was delivered. It was read. And then nothing. No response, no authorization, no public alert. She waited 5 minutes. 10. She called the ministry's direct emergency line. It rang 7 times before someone picked up. Dr. Avers, a male voice said, "Controlled. We've received your data. The advisory board is reviewing it." "There's no time for review," Lynn said, her voice firm. "The models show a high probability tsunami. We must warn the coast immediately. Evacuations should have started 5 minutes ago. We understand. But the advisory board has asked for confirmation from secondary sensors. They believe your projection overestimates the wave risk. They believe." Lynn's voice rose. "This isn't about belief. It's physics. This is real. If we wait for confirmation, we're condemning tens of thousands of people." The man on the other end was silent for a moment. "Dr. Avers, the government does not want to incite public panic. We will await further confirmation before issuing a national warning." And then he hung up. Lynn stared at her screen. The waveform was still rolling in. Tide buoys near the epicenter were already showing sudden rises. The ocean was lifting, quietly, invisibly. She had 90 minutes to change the fate of a country, and her government had just told her to stay silent. She took a deep breath, grabbed her backup drive, and walked out of the building. Not to escape, to warn someone else. Cara Mendez hadn't planned on being awake at 4 in the morning, but stories never asked permission. They came when they wanted, and they came fast. The seasoned journalist sat in the darkened press room of Vasuna Daily, his coffee in hand, scanning international feeds for any overnight signals. She had a reputation for chasing corruption and more than a few enemies in high places. That was exactly why Lynn Avers chose her. Kara's phone buzzed. "Unknown number." She picked up, her voice wary. "This is Kara." "I need 10 minutes of your time," a woman said. "I have tsunami data. The government is suppressing it." Kara straightened. "Who is this?" "It's Dr. Lynn Avers, Seismology Division, Pacific Monitoring Center. I have proof of an incoming wave. The government won't issue a warning." There was no hesitation. Kara was already pulling on her jacket. "Where can we meet?" "Old Observatory. Cliffside. Bring a recorder. Bring someone you trust. And hurry. We have just over an hour." 20 minutes later, Kara parked in front of the abandoned observatory, a relic from before satellites made stargazing obsolete. Inside, Lynn was waiting, laptop open, data charts scrolling. Her face was pale. Her voice was calm. "It's calm. This isn't theoretical," Lynn said. "It's happening. The models are converging. the wave will hit the southeast coast in just under 70 minutes. The water has already started to withdraw. The government thinks it's better to risk silence than start a panic. Kara was recording everything. Why? Tell me. 'Cause you're the only one who might actually say something, Lynn replied. And because if I tried to warn people through official channels again, I might not have the chance to try a third time. Kara stood in silence for a second. Then she said, "We go public." Now, she called her editor. No answer. So she uploaded the raw files to the daily's emergency feed, sent out an alert to every journalist, social media contact, and whistleblower threads she had access to. Then, she did something she hadn't done in years. She live-streamed. From the cliff, beneath a dark and starless sky, Kara Mendez looked into her phone camera and said, "If you live on the Vasunan coast, get to higher ground. Don't wait for sirens. Don't wait for permission. This is not a drill. A tsunami is coming." She paused, breath shaking, "and your government doesn't want you to know." The live stream spread faster than either of them expected. Within 5 minutes, Kara Mendez's warning had been reposted by local activists, weather networks in neighboring countries, and independent news accounts around the world. The hashtag VASUNA wave began trending internationally. Screenshots of seismic data shared by Lynn flooded Twitter. Someone translated Kara's words into 6 languages within 15 minutes. Our voice echoed far beyond the cliffs of the observatory. But inside Vasuna's capital, official media stayed silent. The national emergency broadcast system remained dormant. Government channels stuck to pre-recorded music and late-night talk shows. Mobile alerts were quiet. People in the coastal districts slept soundly, most of them unaware that the tide had already receded more than 40 meters from the shoreline. Lynn checked the tide sensor updates on her laptop. Buoy number 17A had stopped transmitting altogether. Buoy number 18B registered a drop of over 10 meters in under 6 minutes. "The water is gone," she said softly. "The waves already forming." Kara looked down at her phone, watching new comments flood in. Some called her a hero. Some called her insane. Others asked for proof. A few said their relatives had already started driving inland, and then the messages changed. One after another, people began reporting long, low rumbles, a sound like distant thunder, a tremor that wasn't shaking the ground, but humming in the bones. "That's the wave," Lynn whispered. They jumped into Kara's car, driving down the ridge toward the coastal highway. They passed quiet neighborhoods, motionless traffic lights, glowing street lamps over empty playgrounds. Most people were still asleep. The sea air smelled wrong, metallic, still. Lynn opened a 2-way radio she had brought from the center. She switched to a private disaster coordination frequency, hoping for some voice-any voice. Static. Then, "This is Coastal Patrol. Chapter 5. Confirming reports of water recession. Visible seabed, urging immediate evac to anyone monitoring." Kara grabbed the mic. "This is Kara Mendez with Vasuna Daily. We are trying to alert the public. Coastal impact in approximately 40 minutes. Where's the evacuation order?" No response. "Ken," another voice. "Order hasn't come. Silverguard not authorized to issue warnings. Central Command is dark." Lynn stared at Kara. They shut everything down. Kara made a decision. "We need to get to someone who can reach people. Church bells, sirens, something analog." They drove to the nearby town of Aspira, a small fishing village perched above the rocks. Kara knew the place well. Marta Cavell had been a vocal critic of the national government for years, and she had her own warning system, an old maritime bell tower, long retired but still functional. It was 4:29 when they reached her. Marta opened the door in her robe, face already pale. "I saw the feed. I believed it. Heard the ocean pull away." "We need to ring the bells," Kara said. "We need people to wake up." Marta nodded. No hesitation. She grabbed the town hall key. 10 minutes later, The first clang of the great bronze bell echoed over Espera. Then again. One by one, lights flicked on in the windows. Doors opened. Voices rose in confusion and fear. And still, no sirens, no government alerts, just a bell, a voice, and the sound of the sea preparing to come back. The wave arrived at 5:02 from the cliffs above Espera. It looked like the ocean itself had risen up in fury. A towering black wall of water, glinting faintly in the pre-dawn light, stretched from one horizon to the other. It moved silently, at first, stoppable, indifferent, alive in its own terrible way. Kara stood beside the bell tower, gripping the railing so tightly her knuckles turned white. Beside her, Lynn held the radio to her ear, listening to a chorus of overlapping emergency reports, frantic, disorganized, and too late. Below them, in the winding streets of the village, people were fleeing toward the hills, some barefoot, some dragging children, some crying. Marta directed evacuees toward the old lighthouse path, her voice hoarse from shouting. The townspeople responded with urgency, but there was panic in the errant animal kind of fear that spread faster than the warning ever had. And then the sound came. Not a roar, not a crash, but a deep, pulsing hum that grew into something unnatural, like 100 trains beneath the earth. Like the wind screaming through steel, the wave slammed into the harbor. Fishing boats were lifted like toys, snapped in half against the docks. The first row of buildings exploded under the pressure. Wood, concrete, and glass swept away in an instant. The streets filled like bathtubs. The water climbed the hillside, fast and unstoppable. Trees bent backward. Cars floated like leaves, spinning in circles before being crushed against walls. From above, Kara could only watch. Len was silent. There were no words, only motion, only destruction. The second surge hit harder, curved inland, folding around hills, bending through valleys. Further up the coast, entire towns were submerged. Transmission towers fell. Power grids failed. One last emergency radio signal crackled and then died. The signal that might have warned a city went silent forever. In Espera, those who had not heard the bell never made it out. A school near the harbor was gone within seconds. A hospital on lower ground lost power, then vanished into the rising tide. Later, a nurse would describe the moment as watching the earth eat itself, as if the sea had come alive. And then, finally, sirens, distant, belated, powerless. The air was thick with salt and dust. The ground trembled even after the water passed, like the land itself was grieving. Kara and Lynn made their way down from the bell tower, as the rain began to fall light at first, then stronger, mixing with the seawater and ash. Back in the capital, government buildings stood dark. Ports later revealed internal orders to delay alerts until confirmation of casualty potential. But by the time they agreed to issue an evacuation, communications had already failed. The silence they clung to became permanent. When helicopters finally arrived in Aspra, they found survivors huddled in the hills, children wrapped in wet towels, elders in shock. A few dozen had injuries that would take months to treat. Many others wandered in silence, clutching whatever they had saved: a photograph, a blanket, a name. Hours passed. When the waters receded, they left behind a graveyard. The coastline was broken, streets gone, hospitals flooded, thousands missing. And yet, in Espera, hundreds had survived because of a bell, because of a voice, because someone had refused to wait for permission. Lynn stood in the mud beside the wreckage of a fishing boat. Her laptop was gone, her credentials meaningless, but she had done what she could. She had made noise when silence was death. Kara interviewed survivors for the next 48 hours. She didn't sleep. Her story, the day the sea took the truth, was published worldwide. It ignited fury. The world demanded answers. Vasuna's leadership resigned. Investigations began. New laws were promised. International experts flooded in. But the dead stayed dead. Some blamed ignorance, others politics. Some claimed the wave was divine judgment. Few still insisted it never happened at all. But those who were there would always remember. And the sea, for now, was quiet again. But it was listening.